It seems hard to argue against the fact that in 2024, there may be no other major Hollywood entertainment company that has spent so much money to self-destruct so spectacularly as the Walt Disney Company and its affiliated studios. Guys like Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, and even the traditional and vaunted Disney Animation Studios. We have seen flop after fail after bomb in the box office since theaters reopened in late 2021, and it doesn't look like Disney has any long-standing plans to get out of the gutter anytime soon, at least apart from exceptions to that rule like maybe Deadpool and Wolverine. But one thing that has definitely become more common is the lament, the sadness of former Disney creative talent long having left the company, now looking back on their time there as the golden years of Disney. And what's going on today is anything but. This from the director of the original Mermaid and Aladdin. Disney needs a course correction away from political messaging. And this is something that Wall Street needs to get its head around sooner than later if it expects to see the Walt Disney Company stock price get back on track. Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and now Wednesday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern right here for the live show. For all of the half-hearted celebration of Disney's remake, a live action of The Little Mermaid that released in 2023, the box office wasn't near what it should have been. Sure, the movie made around $500 million globally, but as I continue to remind folks, this was a film released in the same year that Barbie came out from Warner Brothers and scored nearly 3 times as much as The Little Mermaid. That shouldn't happen. The Little Mermaid is Disney's most popular princess in terms of merchandise and sales ever, one could argue pretty easily. Little Mermaid should have swept into the box office and cleaned house. It should have been Disney's first billion-dollar movie since the pandemic. But it wasn't. And why is that? Like we've talked about before, Disney gave audiences something to look at that had them scratching their heads. This doesn't look like Ariel. There's new music in there. The story has radically changed. 45 minutes have been added to a film that was already arguably perfect in 1989 with a runtime of just about an hour and a half, something that's ideal for young audiences. But among other things in this article, animated filmmaker John Musker, who directed such Disney films as The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Hercules, called out the Walt Disney Company for prioritizing political messaging over story in its recent films. He said, "I think they need to do a course correction a bit in terms of putting the messaging secondary, or just how about ditch the left-wing political messaging altogether. Behind entertainment and compelling story and engaging characters," Musker said. The classic Disney films, the ones that he worked on, he says, didn't start out trying to have a message. They wanted to get you involved in the characters and the story and the world. And I think that's still the heart of it. You don't have to exclude agendas, but you do have to first create characters who you sympathize with and who are compelling. Now, I disagree with not having to exclude agendas. I think it would be very wise for Disney and, frankly, any entertainment company to exclude hard agendas, especially when it comes to animated children's geared programming, be it on film or television. But the rest of Musker's statement there about creating a world and characters and things that people initially fall in love with sounds a lot like your classic Hollywood filmmakers, does it not? Sounds a lot like John Lasseter.
To make a great film, I believe you have to do 3 things really well. Tell a compelling story that is unpredictable, keeps the audience on the edge of their seat. You populate that story with really appealing and memorable characters. and put that story and those characters in a believable world. Believable for the story you're telling. Not realistic. We're not interested in reproducing reality. It's a believable world.
Somebody else that Disney managed to run off. Musker has collaborated with fellow director Ron Clements on several Disney animated features, including The Great Mouse Detective in 1986, The Little Mermaid in 1989, Aladdin in 1992, Hercules in 1997, even Treasure Planet in 2002, Moana in 2016, and they also helmed 2009's The Princess and the Frog, which was met with mixed reception over the depiction of Disney's first black princess. Now, let me push back on that statement from Variety just a bit. I don't think that Princess and the Frog was initially met with mixed reaction. I think the problem with Princess and the Frog was that was the first time in my memory that Disney started headlining the race of a character as being a prominent feature of the film to try to somehow drive audiences.
Dinner, I caught up with Anika Noni Rose, who will be playing Tiana, the first African-American princess for Walt Disney.
I remember the trailers, commercials, articles, and things that came out touting that this was Disney's first black princess. Yeah, there were even stories out there complaining that Tiana didn't have a white prince, but the prince, of course, wasn't white. Naveen was black. But that was Disney's first experiment with racial, social messaging, at least in terms of advertising, which was a mistake on Disney's part, in my opinion. Instead of just putting out the trailer and letting it stand on its own 2 feet, the movie was brilliantly written, directed, the music was wonderful, and it had, frankly, one of the best villains with Keith David in there as the Voodoo King I thought Disney ever did. And frankly, Musker agrees with me here when he says we weren't trying to be woke. Although I understand the criticism Musker said of The Princess and the Frog. Elsewhere in the interview, the animated filmmaker shared his thoughts on Disney's live-action remakes. Quote, companies are always like, how do we reduce our risk? They like this, right? We'll just do it again and sell it to them in a different form, he said. Or they think, well, we could make it better. He specifically criticized the 2023 adaptation of The Little Mermaid, saying, quote, they didn't play up the father-daughter story, and that was the heart of the movie. And in a way, the crab, you could look at live animals in a zoo, and they have more expression, like with The Lion King. That's one of the basic things about Disney. It's the appeal, he continued. That's what animation does best. And yeah, apart from race-swapping Ariel for a black actress, it didn't really have that bright red iconic hair that we got in 1989 that makes Ariel so commercially recognizable to children. They also radically altered the story, with Prince Eric basically serving no purpose whatsoever, instead of him actually killing Ursula in the first movie, which gains King Triton's trust of humans. Ariel's relationship with her father also kind of took a bit of a backdoor there as well. Too many changes, too many additions of unnecessary runtime, and the movie really didn't hit like it was supposed to. It didn't sell any kind of new merchandise for Disney like it was supposed to, and the music that they added to it didn't really do much either. Sure, kids still enjoy the original of the film, but the remake was an unnecessary waste of money by the Walt Disney Company, who frankly didn't even really turn a profit and still lost some money on 2023's The Little Mermaid. What I genuinely wonder, however, is this too little, too late? Can Disney actually course correct? Do they even want to course correct? Disney has this woke ideology so embedded in the Hollywood studios now out there that it may be almost impossible to dislodge. Think of the entire Stories Matter group at the Walt Disney Company. You know, the same group that recently said that Tinkerbell is problematic because she's too body conscious, whatever that means. And let's not forget the Reimagine Tomorrow program that has turned Disney's entire multi-billion-dollar corporate structure into a social justice experiment instead of a company that's supposed to be going out there and making money, returning the most amount of profits for the least amount of cost to its owners, the stockholders. Remember, kids, it was Bob Iger that put all of this into play. As much as he likes to spend time in 2024 telling us that it was all Bob Chapek's fault, all 10 months and 2 weeks that he actually had full control of the Walt Disney Company. Of course, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. But be that as it may, you have to also wonder if the talent pool is even still there at the Walt Disney Company. Everybody in Hollywood, Disney included, is so enamored with doing remakes and reboots and sequels and rebootquels and all these different versions, remaking the same movie over and over again. And I think it's largely because the creativity is just dead. It's been run off. Or, in the case of what Reimagine Tomorrow does, it terrifies those older white dudes that made this company run for so many years, the veterans that could otherwise really be teaching the younger generations in there, be they black, white, male, female, or whatever, what to do, how to make a great movie, not because that they're white, but because they're more experienced and they've been around the block and they've made billions and billions and billions of dollars through their products by creating good entertainment and not just pumping out intellectual property that's riddled with left-wing propaganda in order just to push a message that the company wants to get out. Audiences have wised up to this too much, and I think Mr. Musker is right, although I just don't think anybody at the Walt Disney Company is going to be listening. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.